coming for one of the best big men in T5G, fast, reliable, secure. With Shams Charania and Tim Doyle, I'm Cameron Smith. And earlier in the show, we told you about Brooklyn's roster moves. And a lot of that was made possible because the Nets traded DeAndre Jordan to the Pistons, and Detroit later waived the 33-year-old. Now, from there, Shams reported that Jordan was set to join the Lakers on a one-year deal worth $2.6 million. And he joins a staple of new veteran Lakers that includes Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, and the Brody, Russell Westbrook. Shams, this happened quickly. So how do the Lakers envision Jordan meshing with this roster and his fit with this team?
Yeah, it's unclear whether DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard will start. Anthony Davis could play even more minutes up front at 5 this upcoming year. But overall, for DeAndre Jordan, once he got traded and bought out, the obvious situation for him was to go to one of those LA teams. He wanted to be back home, either with the Lakers or the Clippers. And with the Lakers, it at least allows him an opportunity to seriously compete for a championship, which was important to him, as well as playing at home and possibly having a significant role in LA, depending on where the minutes shake out between him, Dwight Howard, and Anthony Davis at the 5. But there's no question during the regular season, he will play an instrumental role potentially at the 5.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And Tim, we talked about Brooklyn's front court additions and how they'll match up with Milwaukee in the East. But with the Lakers in their front court out west, how do they match up with the rest of the Western Conference with that front court group?
And they just have so many bodies, don't they? And when you add in another big man like DeAndre Jordan, you got to think that this is all geared towards the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic, and slowing him down. And that's what the Lakers did, frankly, 2 years ago in the bubble. They just threw multiple big guys at Jokic throughout the series, and they did wear him down. But I got to ask you, Cam, do the Lakers need a new sponsor on their jersey? Maybe Life Alert? Because they got a lot of old guys on that team. Like, I've fallen and I can't get up. I mean, this is a roster full of veterans. Curious to see who's able to last over the long haul. But who has the best front line in the West goes through the Lakers.
Yeah, and that's true. And well, they have a guy in LeBron James that has defied what it means to be old in the NBA. He's found the fountain of youth. All right, let's move it back to the Eastern Conference and talk about the Toronto Raptors, because that's where they are returning to the North after playing last season in Tampa. Now, the Raptors snapped a streak of 7 consecutive playoff seasons last year, and now Kyle Lowry is in Miami. So, Tim, Pascal Siakam is a guide right now for the franchise, but he'll be on the shelf at the start of the season because he underwent shoulder surgery. So, does Toronto have a playoff team in your eyes as currently constructed?
You know, it used to be we the North. Now it's going to be we the South, because they're going to be way below in the standings right now, looking up at everybody else in their conference. This is a rebuild, and hats off to them. You know, if I was smart, I would be running the Raptors organization, and I would build the Kawhi Leonard statue. But you got to put it on the ground where he's sitting right there. You have the fans come into the arena, because not too many are going to show up this year. You're not going to win a lot of games. And you put the fans around them taking pictures, remembering the glory days. It's rebuild mode there. Scotty Barnes got a huge upside. I think he's going to be a heck of an NBA player in 3 or 4 years. So you trot him out there every game, you get him that experience. And FSU guys, Florida State guys, have really shown that they can play at the next level. But as far as this year, it's going to be a long, cold winter in Toronto, Cam.
Yeah, they made a lot of changes with this Raptors franchise, and one of the bigger changes, Shams, was Kyle Lowry. And Tim talking about his statue, and I'm sure that at some point Kyle Lowry will get that because he's considered one of the greatest Raptors, if not the greatest Raptor in the franchise's history. He's going to Miami in a sign and trade. So who do you think steps up in his spot and it becomes that emotional leader for this Raptors team?
Kim, I'm looking at Fred VanVleet. This is a guy that became the leading scorer ever for an undrafted player in a single game, over 50 points last season. So I think for him, this is going to be his opportunity to become the starting point guard full out and also become the emotional leader, the locker room leader of this franchise. This is a role that I think Fred VanVleet's been primed for over the last couple seasons. But with Siakam being on the shelf, this is a team that's going to need Fred VanVleet's leadership early.
Yeah, let's kind of keep moving forward with things with the Pelicans and go back to the Western Conference, because this is where our season preview continues, and we're going to take a look at this franchise and talking about changes. They've had changes, especially when it comes to head coaches, because Zion Williamson will be playing under his 3rd head coach for his 3rd straight season, and Willie Green is in the spot now. So what are your expectations for Zion Williamson entering this season, Tim?
Well, obviously, he's one of the most explosive players in the history of basketball. I mean, we're looking at the modern day Charles Barkley. If you're not an old guy like myself, you remember what Barkley was able to do from an offensive standpoint. I think the biggest thing with Zion, when I've called his games, Cam, is can he withstand 48 minutes? I've seen bursts of greatness where he really is one of the top 5 players in the NBA, but he needs to maintain that over 48 minutes. So it really comes down to conditioning. I think the biggest thing the Pelicans have to figure out is who they are. They brought Stan Van Gundy in to have these guys guard and buy in. That didn't happen. I think you embrace a mentality of, hey, we're going to score 127 points a game. Can we hold the other team to 126? But Zion is must-see TV. I think the biggest thing is keeping him happy and wanting him to stay in New Orleans, Cam.
And it has to be pressure there, Shams, for this franchise, especially David Griffin, when it comes to making the playoffs, because you have a transcendent player like Zion Williamson, but they made some roster moves and moving Lonzo Ball in a signing trade to the Bulls and bringing in Devontae Graham. So how much pressure is on David Griffin and this franchise to make the playoffs, Shams?
There's no question. There's going to be significant pressure and expectation for this Pelicans group to make at least the play-in or playoff range, either be a top 8 seed in the playoffs or be in the top 10 to play in the play-in tournament to try to make the playoffs, because, for the first couple years of Zion Williamson's career, they just have not gotten to that stage. And it's reaching the point where he's going to want to play meaningful basketball sooner rather than later. And so now he's entering, a year that he could be extension eligible next season. And so you want to be, if you're the Pelicans, you want to be in a situation where you're able to have, a playoff season under your belt before you go into those conversations for an extension.
Yeah, that's all true there, Shams. And Tim, let's talk about Brandon Ingram and the future for this franchise, because you have an all-star there in Brandon Ingram with Zion Williamson. We'll see how it works out with Devontae Graham. But what's big picture for this Pelicans franchise, especially, I know target number one is making sure Zion stays down in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think that Brandon Ingram could be a 27, 28 point per game scorer. He is really an elite level scorer. It's interesting how the conversation has flipped, right? Where it was Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram. Now all of a sudden, who do you really want on your squad? I just think the Pelicans should embrace that, hey, we're going to score a lot of points, and can you keep up with us?
Yeah, Ron Aldridge is back in Brooklyn. The 7-time All-Star is fully cleared to return to basketball after he was forced to retire from the NBA in April after getting diagnosed with a heart condition. But that wasn't the only veteran addition and All-Star added to the Brooklyn Nets roster, because 4-time All-Star Paul Millsap is also a Net after considering offers from the Warriors, Bulls, and Clippers. Shams, of course, was all over both of these stories. So with that being said, Shams, since we have you here, as we always do each week, what more can you tell us about these additions to the roster for Brooklyn and these All-Stars that are going to be in comparison with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden?
Yeah, the Nets have pursued Paul Millsap for the last 3-4 weeks. Ever since free agency began, Paul Millsap had offers on the table with more money. The Philadelphia 76ers, the Chicago Bulls were 2 teams that offered Paul Millsap more than the minimum that the Nets could offer. But the chance to potentially start in Brooklyn alongside Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, James Harden, potentially down the road, LaMarcus Aldridge at the 5, I think appealed Millsap a lot. And he wanted to be in a situation where he could play for a championship. He's a guy that's made $100 million over the last 4 years. And so the Nets really played into that and wanted to give an opportunity to win a ring. And LaMarcus Aldridge, he really wanted to get back to playing the game. I think, when I spoke to him in June, I could tell that he just was not done with the game of basketball. And so once he got the full medical clearance to play again, him and the Nets, it was an obvious pairing. He had a lot of positive experience from that time he spent with the Nets.
Yeah, of course, Aldridge will be playing with a chip on his shoulder, and these are nice additions to the front court for the Brooklyn Nets, because they're going to need that depth if they're trying to make that NBA title run. And Tim, the Nets are the betting favorite to win the NBA title this upcoming season. But I want you to let me know who brings more to this front court. Is it Millsap or is it Aldridge? Because both of these guys are 36 years old at this point in their careers.
Yeah, veterans that have been around the block. But to answer your question, Cam, I believe is Aldridge at this point in his career on the floor. Why does he want to go play for the Nets? Because he was really good when he wore a Brooklyn Nets jersey. I called his first game wearing a Nets jersey against Charlotte. What did he go out and do? He almost had a triple-double. He had 11 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. And right before he shut it down for the season, he had another game where he had 22 points against New Orleans. Paul Millsap is trending in the wrong side of his career. He's had an outstanding career from Louisiana Tech, and he brings that veteran presence into the locker room. He brings that leadership guy that's well respected around the league. But LaMarcus Aldridge was really good when he was on the floor, scoring the basketball, distributing the basketball, and he's another big body because now when you go through the East, you're gonna have to go through the guy in Milwaukee known as Giannis, and another body out there with long arms to defend him at times is going to be a key factor. So Cam, to answer your question, between these two guys, gotta go with Aldridge.
All right, and speaking of Milwaukee, let's talk about one of their pivotal players that allowed them to reach the NBA Finals and win that championship. Because if turning nothing into something was an NBA player, you got to talk about Bobby Portis of the Bucks. He's the best example of that, and as I mentioned, was very instrumental in Milwaukee's title run. And our own Shams Charania spoke with the 26-year-old forward for an exclusive one-on-one, and Portis detailed why he re-upped with the Bucks for his 7th NBA season.
This offseason, you had interest and offers from teams like Dallas, Miami, but you chose to stay in Milwaukee. What does it say about your happiness and your level of stability with that organization for your decision to stay there?
Just being around the league now, going on my 7th season, bouncing around, trying to find a home that I can get stable in, find happiness, and just a place where I can be myself. I think I found that now. Being there, I love everything they do there. It's a winning environment. They have a great culture there. I love the coaching staff and playing with guys like Giannis, Christian, Drew. Just being around those guys make me, get better each and every day. Just, see how much they sacrifice, how much they put into it. And then having a great fan base that really supports me, really loves how I play the game of basketball, just makes it that much sweeter.
I remember you told me last offseason you were the one calling Giannis Antetokounmpo to play on Milwaukee, to try to get to Milwaukee. This offseason, it was kind of the other way around. Giannis was calling you so you could stay in Milwaukee. What were those calls like in the days leading up to free agency from Giannis and his message to you to try to make sure that you stayed in Milwaukee, Buck?
The biggest thing with him is obviously it's always family first. Do the best thing for your family. That's one thing that he always tried to, instill in, his teammates. He's a hell of a leader, man. He just always tried to instill that, always take care of your family, but he does want me to stick around and, be around, with him, for the long haul. So to have a guy like Giannis call me, wanting me to stay and emphasizing it almost every day, after the season. I think the first thing he said when we won the championship is that, he said to John Horst, man, you need to sign Bobby back. Like, that was one of the first things he said. So for me to hear my fam, hear that and things like that, it's just great.
When you look back at that playoff run, there were moments where you could have also phased out, right? You got some DNPs in that Brooklyn series before you really started to take off in the conference finals and then obviously the NBA finals. What was that like mentally for you when you look back at that Nets series and really how you were able to stay locked in and just stay true to your character?
It was easy for me. I've been through a lot of my whole life, man, especially in my NBA career. The highs and lows that the NBA game gives to you, you can't really put a tab on it. All guys come from college as, one of the best players on their college team, if not the best player on their college team. That was me. Second team All-American in college, player of the year, first round draft pick. And then I get to the Bulls and I get 10 DNPs to start the season. So was kind of, I wasn't used to it. I wasn't used to that, but just looking back on it, I try to look at all the things I've been through and just try to stay in the now and just try to stay as locked in as possible. Keeping your cardio up, being a great teammate, all those things matter when you're trying to win a championship. Each series is different in the playoffs. You have to find a way to find your role and find your niche to try to impact winning in each series. So staying ready for my moment was called. And whenever, Coach Bud called on me, I think that I was ready. And I think the world's seeing that as well.
What was the moment like after you guys won the ring? And how much vindication did you have as far as that was your ultimate goal, was to try to win and compete for a championship? You ended up doing it. How validated did you really feel?
I feel real validated, man. I've been on a lot of stinker teams, man. My first 5 years in the league, I only been to the playoffs one time. We got eliminated first round. Having the opportunity to play on a championship level team that's been to the Eastern Conference Finals, was up 2-0, had a chance to go to the finals, and they let us slip away. Then obviously last year with the bubble situation, I'm losing to the Heat, knowing that I can really fill a role and impact winning. That was the biggest thing that really caught my eye, that I can really come in and do. When you play this game of basketball, you really have a small time to play. Some guys' window is 5 years, some guys' window is 10 years. I want mine to be 15 plus, if I'm grateful by the grace of God. But you have a small window to play this game. There's not a lot of players that can call themselves champions. So for me to have an opportunity to call myself that and see how my hard work and sacrifice pay off and prosper, I'm just blessed.
How often do you guys already talk about that amongst the group, as far as let's get another one here?
Oh man, we ain't got to talk about that. I think that every team that wins it wants to repeat. I think that's just a thing. Like, if a guy that's won a championship before said that he doesn't want to win it next year, then he's lying. Like, everybody wants to repeat. You want that back-to-back title. You want that stamp. So, obviously with us, it's going to be even harder this year to do it. We have a lot of guys coming at us. Every game is going to be a championship game this year. We already know that. I've heard stories that the next year after you win the championship, it's crazy. All the road games are crazy. They're boring you this and that. So it's definitely going to be a fun year. But I think, as the season has ended and, progressed towards the off season, we haven't talked as much amongst each other as a whole, but, definitely when training camp comes back around and preseason comes and, when opening night comes, we get those rings. I think it's going to be that feeling where, guys going to have that feeling where, we want to, we all want to do this again.
Now, I'm not sure if you paid for a meal yet in Milwaukee since you guys have won a ring, but are there any spots that you already know you're set for life at in Milwaukee?
Nah, I don't know that I'm set for life yet, but man, every time I go somewhere, it's like people be like, nah, man, I got it. Like, the guy behind me might say he has it, or the guy or the woman that's working at the restaurant might say they're going to take care of it. So it's definitely a crazy, crazy feeling, man. I went to a Walgreens like a couple of weeks ago, and I ain't paid for nothing in Walgreens. Not always. Like, I don't go to Walmart or none of those stores, but I like a corner store Walgreens. You just go in, get out real fast. And I tried to do that, and the guy said, nah, like, I'll handle it. And he worked there. So, man, it's definitely been a crazy experience. Definitely life-changing for me and my family. Just to have my mom there, like I said, like, my mom's my rock. She's my everything. Just having her there at all my games, letting her experience everything that I've experienced through this playoff run, and man, it's been a hell of a year this year.
I'm sure she was probably the first person to ever chant Bobby, Bobby. But how crazy is it that you're getting that chant pretty much everywhere you go? You wake up in dreams with that chant going.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, the people that watch TV only see it like when we play home games. Like, I get that like at the gas stations, and when I just outside chilling, like, people just, I don't know, I can't even make this up. Like, I don't even know how I just don't know how it started. I just be myself every day, come in, work hard, never complain, just be myself. Like, all I know how to do is be Bobby Portis. That's all I've ever been. I'm just a real guy, just try to, be a stand-up guy and do everything the right way. And it's just fun sometimes when you get rewarded and people see the hard work and see that you really care. I think that's why Milwaukee loves me the most, and that's why they like me a lot, because I put my all into it, whether I'm making shots or not. I'm giving my all, bringing energy every time I play the game. And, like I always say, man, it's Milwaukee's a blue-collar city, and I'm a blue-collar player.
I love the interview, Shams. So, Shams, what's your biggest takeaway from your time with Bobby Portis?
I think my biggest takeaway is the fact that Giannis Antetokounmpo has been so active in terms of his recruitment. There's always been this perception that Giannis does not really want to have any involvement in the recruitment of players. He shied away from trying to recruit star players, but his relationship with not only Bobby Portis, but Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, he's gone out of his way, especially for Bobby Portis. Last year, Bobby Portis told me that he reached out to Giannis and told Giannis, I feel like I can help you guys win and compete. Giannis goes to GM John Horst, pushes John Horst to sign Bobby Portis. And once Portis won that championship, Giannis was in his ear again, like, I need you to stay a Milwaukee Buck. And so that's been my biggest takeaway, is just that relationship with Bobby Portis and the star player of the Bucks and Giannis, and him securing his future in Milwaukee and wanting to be with a team that can compete, and him putting his happiness and stability first and foremost.
Yeah, it was a smart move for all sides involved. And Tim, NBA fit is so important. Portis, it didn't work out for him in Chicago. It didn't work out for him in New York or Washington. So why did he find his footing with Milwaukee?
You know, can't you just see Giannis like whispering in Bobby Portis's ear, and then Bobby's eyes getting real big about like coming back to Milwaukee, because he's the energy guy. You know, when you go through that roster, you don't really have anybody, with the exception of maybe Pat Connaughton, that brings the crowd to its feet, right? When you think about Bobby Portis, you think of the chant, right? Bobby, Bobby, Bobby. And there's an energy when he gets into the game, and I feel like he's always doing something, sometimes negatively, but most of the time positively, grabbing an offensive rebound, blocking a shot. He's become such a consistent mid-range jump shooter. He has a relentless attitude. And then Cameron, you can't mention Bobby without mentioning the eyes. He's got the crazy eyes on the floor. His team feeds off of that, because Middleton, Giannis, Drew Holiday, like, they're not energy guys, so they feed off of Bobby, and I think it's an amazing fit up in Milwaukee.
Yeah, Bobby Portis is your teammate. You love him. So you need a guy like Bobby Portis on your team, especially if you have NBA title aspirations.